Oscar is the next Max.
The world champion versus the championship leader. It's late on the brakes for Max Verstappen, but Piastri powers by.
Now we expect this ruthless pursuit of perfection.
Alex Albon, what a weekend.
It's been a very weird weekend though. It's been very up and down.
Was there a bit of confusion over the radio?
Yeah, we had a bit of a discussion just now about it.
Max Verstappen, a fine wine, still getting better.
I don't see the day when Max become too old wine.
Having a child gives you a reason to do things. If it's even possible, I could see it increasing his focus and his dedication to Formula One.
Today in the race, Lando Norris was the quickest car. I mean, he's got the fastest lap. He was, at points, very fast out there.
Are you reminded of when Max Verstappen came in? When you look at Kimi Antonelli?
Not at all.
This is not good teamwork, that's all I'm going to say.
We swap the cars.
Have a tea break while you're at it. Come on.
Is it a harmonious team at the moment?
100%.
What a weekend of racing we've had here in the Sunshine State. We witnessed the top three in the title race fighting each other on track with everything they had. And there was some incredible overtaking throughout the field. And given how feisty the drivers were in that thrilling Lego race before the main event, we probably should have seen it coming. Welcome everyone to F1 Nation's review of the Miami Grand Prix. I'm Tom Clarkson, and joining me in the paddock is F1 TV's lead presenter, Laura Winter, and French Formula One journalist for L'Equipe, Ferret. Guys, wonderful to have you both on the show. Best Miami Grand Prix we've had since it joined the calendar?
I think so. I was thinking that during the race. Is this the best one we've had? I think overall, looking at the weekend, absolutely. For me, you had a rookie on pole in the sprint, the youngest ever to lead out a Formula One race in any format, the youngest ever pole sitter in any format. You then had that chaotic sprint race that was just so enthralling. And then today we had, for the first 30 laps or so, some utterly stunning racecraft and racing and fighting out there, clean, hard, fair fighting. It was stunning.
Fred, you've covered Formula One for many decades. Where did that race rate for you?
I'm old, but not that old. I want to cover the last race in 41 because now they're signed till 41, and I'm pretty sure it will be the best race ever.
It is amazing.
It's frightening. Are we still going to be here?
In 16
in this
years'
stadium?
time. I cast my mind back, Fred, to what Formula One was like 16 years ago. It has changed such a huge amount. A huge deal.
Even 10 years ago.
Yeah, true. But look, let's break this one down. And I think we have to start with McLaren, don't we? And Oscar Piastri, little bit off in qualifying, absolutely smashes it out of the park in the race.
We keep complaining against the slight mistake Oscar does. He did a slight one in Sector 1 in Suzuka, and we said, he should have won, but it's only a small mistake, and then he finished third. Yesterday, he did a slight mistake in qualifying. He finished fourth on the grid, but then he won at the end. So I have to take my hat off. Do you say that in English?
Yeah, of course.
Chapeau. Absolutely.
That's what we say in French.
But I think with Oscar, that just shows the level he's operating at, that we do pick up these tiny mistakes that he is making. And he said himself that P4 today, that he started on the grid, was one of the toughest sessions of his Formula One season so far. That's how hard he is pushing himself and how the level he wants to get to, that we're looking at these mistakes because now we expect this ruthless pursuit of perfection from him, and also one that's unflappable, that's completely cool, collected, calm. We don't expect the mistakes, but that race today, I mean, what can you say? Flawless.
I love the way Oscar Piastri can get over a disappointment, next day come back and just drive the race of his life. I'm reminded, we're in America, aren't we? I'm reminded of that speech that Roger Federer gave at Dartmouth College, in which he said, I only won 54% of the points that I played in tennis. So I lost every other point. So you have to park it, come back, and only think about the next point, because otherwise you can't dwell on disappointment. And I think Piastri does that brilliantly, almost better than any other driver. Even Max Verstappen, the godlike Max Verstappen this year, he gets angry and he gets frustrated. We don't see that with Piastri.
Oscar is the next Max, and he learned already from Max, and we saw it during the race. The way he overtook Max today is a different way of the one he did in Jeddah, which was already quite impressive because you have to be brave. But for Oscar, he already did it twice, and twice in different way and in brilliant ones too.
Is Oscar Piastri the closest in that sort of champion mindset and mentality to Max Verstappen compared to any of the other drivers? And maybe you're right that he has that certain something, that champion mindset that means he can just switch it on, compartmentalize what's gone on off track. When he's sitting in that car, everything else has gone from the world. But you're right, the move he made on Max, to let Max go in deep, and then to just come round, the little bluff he did, it wasn't that many laps in the making.
We've said it before on the pod, I'm going to say it again now, but you can't overstate the influence that Mark Webber is having on him, because he's been in those situations and he's just able to share that knowledge with Oscar, and we just see him improving too every single weekend. It's a joy, and funnily enough, I had a catch up with Mark a couple of days ago. We I'm sure he won't mind me sharing this, but he was saying that Oscar and his physio Arthur are both so monosyllabic. He said, I, as his manager, I have no idea what either of them are thinking at any time. And actually, we had a laugh about it. And then I was actually thinking, if you're Lando Norris, that might wind you up, actually. Not knowing what your main rival is thinking at any moment would be frustrating.
I think Max doesn't care about what the other thinks. He only cares about himself, and in the same way, Oscar has the same mindset. And Alain Prost did a column on L'Equipe yesterday or today, whatever, and he says a thing about Oscar, which is the same as Max, and he knows Oscar since a long time because Mark introduced Oscar to Alain when he was the boss of Renault, and this is why Renault signed the young gun. And he wrote in the column that for him, there is two drivers who doesn't care about anything else of racing, because they are all like him. Even Oscar, which he only has 3 years, they only care about racing. And tonight, we will not know what happens. Will he party? Will he fly back to his home?
He won't.
He'll be in a plane going back to the
I'm
NTC,
pretty sure.
I feel, yeah.
I spoke to him after the Bahrain win, so we were in Jeddah, and I said, did you celebrate in Bahrain? Because obviously it's McLaren's second home race, and I'm sure there was an enormous party put on. And Oscar said, I stayed up an hour later to say thank you to the team. And I said, that's the most Oscar Piastri thing I've ever heard. And he just hung his head, laughing to himself. But you're right, he is a relatively private person and a kind of a calm person like that.
There is nothing that Oscar can't do. I mean, even, do we call it a griddy that he was doing in Parc Fermé? Did you see the little dance?
Yes. How did you know
I've
this?
actually missed
It's a
this.
I think it's a griddy.
So I took this exact moment to just maybe look down at my notes or speak to one of the guys behind the camera, and I missed this little jig. Explain it to me, because I've missed it.
Well, so
I need to see a
he's
replay.
explained it, that he gave a hot lap around the track on Thursday to an NFL player called Justin Jefferson,
Right.
and apparently he coined the whole thing, this griddy, and so Oscar agreed that if he won the race, he would do this little jig, I think is a good description, Laura, in Parc Fermé. And after qualifying yesterday, he was convinced he wasn't going to win the race, so he didn't practice. And we saw the result after the race, and he did say, I will never do that again. So if there's one thing Oscar can't do, actually, it is a griddy. But let's bring in Lando Norris to the conversation now. I mean, actually, qualifying went really well. When you think how qualifying has been for him in the last few races, actually, the way he turned it round, I thought was very impressive. Particularly for the main qualifying on Saturday afternoon. But to suddenly, to start the race P2 and find yourself P6 after 3 corners, he must be thinking, what have I got to do?
Especially as I'm pretty sure that Oscar on that position or Max on that position will have ended the first lap on first position, not on the 6th.
I still think Norris comes away from this Grand Prix with lots of positives. When you think where he was last time out and the race before that, I feel, you know, to win the sprint, okay, the safety car helped him, but I think Lando Norris came to Miami thinking, I have to sort qualifying out, and he did that. And I think he can build from here.
I will say, though, today in the race, Lando Norris was, I think, arguably the quickest car. I mean, he's got the fastest lap. He was, at points, very fast out there. But I know that in being stuck behind Max Verstappen, Oscar took out 9 seconds at that point.
And then he was just managing the gap. Although I think Oscar would admit that on the hard tyre, he wasn't as competitive. But it's very difficult, I think, Laura, to judge the pace of the driver in the lead, because he's just managing. He's managing the gap. Okay, at one point it was out to 9 seconds. You don't need to win a race by 9 seconds.
No.
I'm going to quote Juan Manuel Fangio: you win the race at the slowest possible speed to look after your car. And you know, there is a bit of truth in that. We actually saw quite a lot of reliability issues today, which we haven't seen at a lot of Grand Prix this year. So Lando was brilliant, and actually he was really quick last time out as well. But I don't think we saw that sort of half a dozen laps from Oscar where he smashed it.
Yeah.
But then I think it was management from there. This episode of F1 Nation is sponsored by Trade. Morning fuel matters. Whether you're jumping into work, training, parenting, or just surviving Monday, coffee isn't optional, it's essential. So it better be worth it. And that's where Trade Coffee comes to the rescue. Trade is the #1 coffee destination in the US, delivering fresh beans from more than 50 of the country's top roasters. Their experts have taste tested over 450 roasts to make sure every bag they send is next level good. And here's how it works. You take a super quick quiz, less than a minute, and they match you with the perfect coffee for your taste. And if your first bag isn't quite right, Trade will replace it for free until it is. And for the record, my first bag hit the mark. It was just to my taste, and I can't get enough of it, and not just on Mondays, but every day. And when it comes to quality, Trade is way above your average grocery store coffee, but the price, right on par. Plus, you're supporting small local roasters every time you brew a cup. And with Trade's flexible subscription, you can pause or adjust delivery while you're away. Perfect if you're heading off on holiday or to a race weekend. Right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 50% off your 1-month trial at drinktrade.com/nation. That's drinktrade, TRADE.com/nation for 50% off your 1-month trial. drinktrade.com/nation. What about Red Bull, Max Verstappen on another sensational pole lap? Fred, our Frenchman, a fine wine, still getting better.
Yes, but at one point you have to drink it because then it becomes sport. So you have to save. I would say that I don't see the day when Max will become a too old wine. And it's not about having a child. He made a point yesterday with you at the press conference saying that he cares about his daughter, but not when he's driving. And we saw that 4 hours later. He's so impressive.
Another incredible pole lap for him, but I think it was kind of damage limitation in a sense for Red Bull today. Obviously, George Russell benefiting from that VSC, and even with that slow pit stop, getting out of the pit lane just in front of Max Verstappen, and all right, yeah, then holding him off on a medium tyre. But for Max, that's sort of all he could do today with the pace of the McLarens here, like you said, in very hot temperatures here. It seems that car's really come alive. This is the biggest gap that we've seen that McLaren have managed to build up today. And I think Max gave all he could, and ultimately, obviously, had, you know, pole position. It was another amazing lap from him after Suzuka, after Jeddah, to have the one here. But P4, all right, could have been P3, but maybe the absolute maximum.
There are a lot of teams here hoping that this was track specific. The dominance of McLaren, it was the hottest track temperatures we've had this year. That will have undoubtedly helped McLaren. I wonder too whether it will have helped Williams as well. Just on the baby chat, Max Verstappen, of course, missed Thursday. Baby Lily, born in Monaco. It was so nice to see Max just with a spring in his step. And he's loving being a dad, clearly.
It's such a lovely story. I think Formula One can be divisive and fans can be divided over loyalties and rivalries and so on. And I think everyone can come together and just see that the arrival of a healthy baby girl is a really wonderful thing. And someone becoming a father is... And I know, obviously, he's already got a very, very good relationship with P, Kelly's other daughter. But in becoming a father now to Lily, it's, it's just an amazing story and what an incredible experience for him as well. And in a sense, Formula One is this one big dysfunctional, odd family, isn't it? And this big circus that travels the world together. So it's been, I think, really lovely to see everybody congratulate him and be with him on this. And it's a wonderful thing.
And 40 years ago, some drivers did get a little bit slower when at the birth of a child. I was speaking to Mario Andretti earlier in the weekend. We were talking about the safety improvements that have happened in Formula One over the last 75 years. And how did he justify in his mind getting in cars when in the 60s, I think at 1.8 drivers lost their lives in one season? And he said, arrogance. You thought it would never happen to you. I said, when you had children, did it become an issue for you? And he laughed and went, no, probably should have done. That's a different mentality. Whereas I feel today, for someone like Max, having a child, I mean, Fred, you've got children as well. Having a child gives you a reason to do things. I actually think it will make you an even better person. You want to make your children proud of what you're doing. And, Max, if it's even possible, I could see it increasing his focus and his dedication to Formula One because of baby Lily.
Which is already quite big.
so watch out, everybody.
But I would say that Max is in the position of the hunter, just like Lando Norris was. And if things change, starting Barcelona with the new front wing, then he will have minimize the points lost before the reset of the season, which I would love to see.
While we're talking about young people, I think that's our segue into talking about Kimi Antonelli.
I really enjoyed that segue.
Oh, thank you. Now, how good for Formula One is Kimi Antonelli? He's getting better and better. This is only race 6, but out of the car, he's a joy as well.
He's such a joy. I remember in Australia, he was standing with Jolyon Palmer and he walks over to us and he puts out his hand, and he shakes Jolyon Palmer's hand, and then he gives me a kiss on both cheeks. And I think to myself, you're 18 years old. The confidence of the kid. But out the car, he's a joy to interview. He's brilliant to chat to. He gives you so much in his answers as well. He's thoughtful. He cares about what he's saying. And in the car, Mercedes have told us over and over in the build-up to him being announced, he's lightning quick, he's ready for this. And we're now seeing that come to fruition. And there will have been many who doubted that he was ready and perhaps needed another year in F2 or a year at, a team at the other end of the paddock rather than one of the top teams. But if you look at his qualifying results, it's something that he said to me I think it was just after Australia. I just got way too in my head during qualifying, and he qualified P16 in Australia, if you remember. I got way too in my head. I put way too much pressure on myself. I didn't cope with it at all. I need to work on that. And that would have been in China. And then at every single qualifying result since has been incrementally that little bit better until 6 races in, he's got a sprint pole.
Sprint pole, and was the dominant Mercedes driver all weekend. Okay, yeah. George Russell gets the podium in the end because of the VSCs and various strategic elements in the race, but the faster of the two Mercedes drivers was Antonelli, Frank.
We were speaking earlier about Oscar Piastri, which only has 3 seasons of F1. As Laura said, only 6 races, but he is only 18. He's still going to school. He just graduated for a driving license in January. It's amazing. You can't imagine that the boy that you bumped in the paddock, which is a real baby, he is not a Formula 1 driver. He is when he's in the car.
He's still at school, isn't he, doing his maths exams and stuff. Honestly, and I think you have to give credit where it's due to Mercedes here as well, and the environment in which they have nurtured him, because he's been with them for a number of years. we know how much pressure rookies have been under and how much that's been a talking point through the first 6 races. You look at Isaac Hadjar in Australia, you look at Jack Doohan and what may happen to him. Mercedes are putting an arm around Kimi Antonelli, good or bad, any result, they have him. You know, Toto, after the sprint race, said to him, this is the mini race, it's the baby race, big one tomorrow, don't sweat it, don't worry, immediately over the radio. Don't worry about the start, it's fine. And you heard the way they reacted to how he crashed in Monza, of course, ahead of that announcement when he crashed in FP1. They are creating, I think, a nurturing environment for him.
It cost them a lot. If you speak to Gwen Lagrue, he told us the numbers, all the TPC driving and all over the world for, I think, 15 days of driving a Formula One. Okay, you can say that it's spoiling the baby, but not at all. It was just making him better and better and better.
Well, they also are doing it in terms of the off-track stuff as well. So they're preparing him for absolutely every element. So when he walked through those gates in Australia, the paddock gates in Australia, there was nothing that was going to surprise him. Not the jet lag, not the bank of photographers in front of him that will feel very overwhelming for anyone, let alone an 18-year-old. Not the media coming to him. They've prepared him in every single element in becoming a Formula One driver so that nothing is a surprise. There is no giant step he has to take over a weekend.
And maybe you were not there because you were on the TV part, but at the London show in the morning at the media center, he was introduced to every written press journalist, one by one, during 45 minutes. Hello, this is Kimi Antonelli. Kimi Antonelli, let me introduce you to whatever it was, during 45 minutes, just like you want to raise your son.
I want to cast our minds back to 2015. Laura, you weren't working in Formula One then. You were probably cycling, was it?
I was, yeah. I was working in a few different sports, cycling, rugby and that.
Yeah.
So,
Fred, you were definitely here in the paddock. Are you reminded of when Max Verstappen came in? When you look at Kimi Antonelli, do you see parallels there?
Not at all. For me, it's totally different because we saw Max coming from a long time ago, especially when you're French, because he was in a battle with Esteban Ocon at that time, and Esteban won it because he did less crash than Max. But then the first test in Suzuka in 14, a press conference just after FP1, he was surprised by all the questions. We were, oh, you're only 17, how tough is it? And he looked at us and said, okay, it's a car. It's Formula One car, but it's a car. You think that I'm not able to drive a car? And then I said, oh, that guy, I'm going to have it on my back for the next 10 years. When you see Kimi going through the paddock, he's not like that.
Fred, what about the 17-year-old Max, what he was doing on track versus what we're seeing from Kimi? It was slightly harder to analyse with Max because he was in a Toro Rosso. It was obviously not anywhere near the front. But were we seeing the same rate of improvement from Max that we're seeing from Kimi?
For sure, yes. I would compare it to Lewis at the beginning in 2007. What McLaren did with Lewis in 2006 after GP2 title looks like the same with Mercedes and Kimi during the F2 season last year. And I think you won't see Kimi doing the same mistakes that Max did at the beginning of his career.
You're talking on track,
yeah.
The overdriving that we saw in sort of 17, 18 and the result, and we saw some accidents, didn't we?
Because, like Laura said, he has been nurtured, and there is a lot of people taking care of him. There is Toto keeping the head down.
And
saying,
Bono, you know, he's got Bono
And
next to
I
him.
was about to speak about...
Pardon.
No problem. You know him more than me, but the guy, he's been with a driver which is not too bad, named Lewis Hamilton during 10 years. So.
And Michael Schumacher before that.
Yeah.
You know, Bono has a huge amount of experience. Well, look, we're heaping praise on Antonelli, and so we should. It's been, you know, another seismic moment in his career, the youngest ever pole sitter of any kind of race in Formula One. The sky is the limit, and the car has been a little bit disappointing at the last two races. The Mercedes, you know, Saudi, it was the hardest race of the year for them, and this was no easier. I think when we go to the medium speed corners of Imola in 2 weeks' time, the Mercedes will be stronger, but I suppose looking at the positives this weekend, I've already said it was the hottest track temperatures, and this spec of Mercedes over the last few years has overheated its rear tyres, and we didn't see that today. So they're clearly making progress. You know, still second in the World Championship. Good on them. This is an advertisement from BetterHelp. Taking care of your mental health used to be something people avoided talking about. But times are changing. What was once a taboo topic is now an important part of everyday conversation. More and more people are recognizing that mental well-being is just as vital as physical health. That said, there's still more work to be done. A recent UK survey showed that 37% of people feel uncomfortable opening up about mental health because of fear of judgment. And when people don't feel safe getting help, it impacts more than just them. It affects families, workplaces, and even entire communities. Therapy isn't just for those in crisis. It can help anyone learn healthy coping skills, set boundaries, and build a stronger, more resilient mindset. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp connects you with experienced mental health professionals across a wide range of specialities, all online and on your schedule. Let's break the stigma, because we're all better with help. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse range of expertise. We're all better with help. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/F1Nation. That's betterhelp.com/F1Nation. Let's now talk about Williams. P5 for Alex Albon, P9 for Carlos Sainz. We've based ourselves at their hospitality for this episode, and it's a good job we did because it means we can talk to Alex Albon. Alex Albon, what a weekend you've had here in Miami.
Yeah, it's been a very weird weekend though. It's been very up and down. On paper, we finished P4, P5 in both races, and then we obviously got a penalty in the sprint race. A lot of kind of feeling, because it was one of them ones where every point means so much to us. To give up a position like P4 in a sprint race is massive, and it was like, I'm not going to get that opportunity again. But here we are today, P5 in a main race, so we got even more points. So very, very, very happy.
You were able to park that disappointment after the sprint, start again, brilliant qualifying, even better race.
Yes, I'm more proud that I parked it, to be honest. If I'm being totally honest, I think it's always quite, especially when it's on you, the magnitude of the issue feels worse. And so
I should just say we're talking about the safety car infringement in the sprint race, just for people who aren't aware.
Yeah, so I got a 5-second penalty, which we had a safety car finish, which basically meant I was out of the point. So I went from P4 to P12 or P13, and I got told 5 minutes before I put my helmet on. For main quali, so it was almost like a massive kick in the stomach, and it just deflated the whole mood. And it was like 5 minutes of just trying to recenter myself and kind of wash it away. And to be honest with you, I don't think it was perfect. Your focus gets pulled around and your emotions get pulled around in such a short amount of time, but still delivered a decent qualifying session. I think Carlos did a great job on Saturday, and then then Sunday. Yeah.
How is the new Williams? Will you be able to deliver the same thing next week in Imola?
I don't think it will be as easy. We just came out of a meeting right now where we basically go through a bit of a reverse engineering briefing of why is this track working for us? You know, what is it about this circuit? Because obviously we want to be this competitive everywhere. We were as quick as a Mercedes this weekend. We were quicker than a Ferrari. So
Can you just say that again?
yeah, I mean,
We're quicker than the Ferrari.
Exactly.
And you said to me that you saw
Exactly.
Max Verstappen finish a race for the first time in your career.
in my career, yeah.
Even when you were racing with him at Red Bull.
Yeah, I know. I regret saying it because I know that's going to be quoted now. But yes, that is the case. So yeah, we were strong in the last 6-7 laps of the race. I think almost joining the McLaren in terms of race pace. So very competitive.
Obviously finding out about the sprint race penalty 5 minutes before qualifying, and the fact you felt you didn't quite perfectly put it to bed before you went into qualifying. What kind of techniques are you using in those moments to put that out of your head and start afresh and reset? What do you think you could have done better? And is that mental fortitude something you've been working on recently?
I think it's always a work in progress. I think if you're not focused on psychology, and I mean there are drivers who don't, but if you feel like you can be a better driver from it, then you should you should try and focus on that and be the best you, let's say. So in a moment like that, it's easier at other tracks than it is here. The reason for that is because this weekend is just so much going on. Our hospitality is huge. We don't have our drivers' rooms here, and we all do all our meetings in this. Our drivers' rooms are up in the VIP section, which is about a 10-minute walk away. So there's no privacy, there's nowhere to get out, and I really don't like that. I like to spend 15-20 minutes by myself before I go out in the car, and in them 5 minutes I'm looking for a space basically just to switch off and go. I think Carlos even talks about he took a nap because he had a tough sprint race as well, and he took a nap to regroup. I kind of just ended up we have a physio corner in our hospitality for the mechanics, and just spent there, and honestly more just closing my eyes, focusing on what I can control, which was qualifying, and then just going out.
About the race, was there a bit of confusion over the radio?
Yeah, we had a bit of a discussion just now about it. Good, just to clear it up. I think if you listen back to the radios, it's more just the timing of everything. So I got told about holding station or cooling my car off because I think my car was getting a bit hot whilst going side by side down the straight. So at that point, it's like, well, the best form of cooling your car down is to finish the overtake at that point. So that's what I did. Yeah.
You've had a phenomenal week. Many congratulations. I hope you've worked out why the car was quick here and that you can be quick at Imola next time out. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alex.
It's crazy, actually, to think that Williams were faster than Ferrari this weekend.
And on merit. There was a VSC, but actually Alex Albon had pitted before the VSC came out, and they were quicker as well than one of the Mercedes.
What progress that team has made over the winter from 24 to 25 is extraordinary. And I was thinking earlier in the year, okay, they've grabbed all the low-hanging fruit. Now that they've got the backers from Doralton, they've done a great job of just, let's cast our minds back 12 months. There was no spare car at the start of last year. It was only actually at this race in Miami that they turned up with a spare car. So, yes, the car was on time this year. And all that's what I mean by the low-hanging fruit. But they found performance, genuine.
But remember what James Vowles said when he became the team principal. He said, we will start on the back foot because we need to reset everything. So maybe the first year we will be not good as we were before, and it's no longer a question of we have a car which is fast on straights. It's no longer that. It's a pure racing team.
Yeah, I think from what Alex was saying there, they were faster here than they were expecting, but they're going to sort of try and work out why, and then we now go into the summer season, don't we, in Europe, where we should see higher track temperatures like this. I think these are exciting times for Williams. Really
exciting times. I don't know whether there's a slight concern in the team that they are having to reverse engineer why they were fast, because then in equal measure they may not know why they're slow at another track. I think you'd want to know, even if you're a bit slower, you'd want to know exactly where the car is, how it's going to operate, what the operating window is, and what the car behavior and characteristics will be like at varying tracks that we go to. I don't know if that will be a slight concern, but they've got brilliant minds in this hospitality here who will sort that out and work that out. Alex was keen to point out to me when he spoke to us that he felt this was quite track specific, this result. But Alex has 5 points finishes now in 6 races. So it's no longer the exception, is it? This is becoming the norm and the benchmark for Williams.
And a 2-car points finish in Saudi last time out, which is a fast track.
And I think it's a really important thing as well that we're seeing, and is understandably has taken in time, but we're seeing Carlos Sainz coming into the picture now as well, because they now have 2 cars operating at the maximum of which they can extract it from. So they have 2 sources of feedback to work from. They have 2 different drivers experiencing the same kind of pace, the same kind of results of which to take all that feedback from.
Yeah, and experienced drivers, because the differences between the cars this year are so small, the onus is on the driver even more. When it was half a second between cars, a driver could not get the maximum out of the car and still qualify wherever he would have qualified. Whereas now, if you don't get the maximum out of the car, you go backwards. So having 2 quick, experienced drivers really counts. And credit where it's due, James Vowles saw that last year, and that's why he wanted Carlos Sainz.
And it's not only experienced driver, it's drivers who can give feedback. Because if you speak to the sober bosses when they were driving with Kimi Raikkonen. They had an experienced driver, a world champion, but he was not giving any feedback. So the car was tough to improve. When you have Carlos Sainz, who has been driving for Ferrari, who is very thorough on his technical feeling, then it helps the engineers, everyone, to find a way, and then you see it already.
And Carlos has also adapted so many times before to different teams. He's driven for half of the grid. He knows how to adapt to a team. He approaches that challenge with a positive mindset. He wants to do that, and he wants to accept new challenges and find out a way how to make the car faster and come into Williams at this time, a really exciting time for them as well. And you also have Carlos Sainz, the strategist. He is such a brilliant driver, and you saw it earlier on in the season when he'd crashed out and he ended up being on the pit wall, didn't he, and helping them work out when to make certain decisions. And he does that in the car as well. We've heard that so many times at his career through Ferrari. All right, he may not have been in such a good position at a couple of races this season because he's been getting to grips with this Williams. But now it feels like he's moved closer to the Williams and he's moving the Williams closer to him, and it's on the way up.
You know, they've pulled the plug on the 25 car now. Everything's on 26, back in Grove. Half of me's going, no, what could you achieve with this car? But then when you look at the points in the championship, you know, they are a very comfortable P5 now, 17 ahead of Haas in P6 and a long way back from Ferrari. So actually, if you're the money men making the decision, it's a very wise thing, because you could throw more money at this year's car. You're not going to beat Ferrari in P4. They've got too big a gap. And I think they've got enough pace to stay ahead of the rest of the midfield. So Williams are flying. This episode is sponsored by Shopify. If you've ever shopped online and breezed through checkout with that purple Shop Pay button, you've already seen Shopify in action. But Shopify isn't just making checkout smoother. It's the engine behind millions of businesses, from big names like Mattel and Gymshark to fresh new startups finding their footing. From the jump, Shopify sets you up with stunning ready-made store templates, so you can build a beautiful storefront without touching a single line of code. It also takes the stress out of running the day-to-day, letting you manage inventory, payments, email campaigns, and even performance analytics, all from one powerful dashboard. Want to get the word out? Shopify's built-in marketing tools help you connect with your audience across email and social. And that little purple Shop Pay button, it's not just convenience, it's conversion gold. It's the best performing checkout experience on the planet, and your customers already love it. If you want to see less carts being abandoned, it's time for you to head over to Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/nation. Shopify.com/nation. Now, what of Ferrari?
Oof.
A lot of radio chatter, wasn't there?
Yeah, some spicy, spiky team radio. Lewis Hamilton there saying, well, make the decision. What are you having, a tea break or something? But it's really difficult to know what to say about Ferrari at the moment, because both drivers are clearly find the pace of that car unacceptable. Charles Leclerc said that, didn't he? He said, I will not accept where we are currently. And they were beaten today by a Williams. They were beaten by a rookie in Kimi Antonelli. They were P7 and P8. And once again, we heard a slight indecision in terms of how to implement strategy on the racetrack with swapping the drivers. So letting Hamilton through to have a go at Kimi Antonelli, and the time in which they took to make that decision, Lewis Hamilton saying, you have to do this. Remember when I did this in China for you? This isn't fair. He's making his point known. And then when he was let through, he didn't have the pace to catch him. And so Leclerc's then let back through. But in doing all of that, they're wasting racing time. And you saw that every time you do that overtake, you lose half a second, again, to the car in front. So if you take all that away, though, ultimately that was only a fight for P6. That isn't where Ferrari want to be either.
The whole mess that we see tonight, because of the radio chat, which was tough, at Ferrari it has always been like that. If you remember, there is a China Vettel-Leclerc thing, I think it's 19, which is exactly the same. And with the same result, because you have two big drivers, they are competing at a high level, and then they want to be in front of the other. There is no way to avoid that. It's easier when you have Kimi Antonelli, which is new. He won't complain against George if he is following. Max is alone, and you already saw that between Lando and Oscar, there is some tough battle. So at the end, Lewis said that there were no problem and it was only adrenaline. Speaking about the rhythm of the car, I think the problem is not the pace during the race of the Ferrari. The problem is being able to qualify. And you won't be able to say that Charles doesn't know how to qualify. Lewis is the best poleman ever, so it's only the way to put the temperature in the tire with his car.
You know the French speakers at Ferrari so well. I'm talking Fred Vasseur, Charles Leclerc. Is it a harmonious team at the moment?
100%, and I'm not bullshitting you. It's they are very calm, and yes, they want to improve. And Charles is very upset when he says, "I can't be eighth on a grid because I'm a Ferrari driver and I want to win." Lewis this morning went to speak with Fred while we are having a coffee and said, "I want to talk with you about the tires." So it was 9 o'clock on the Sunday morning of a race, and he was not complaining. He was trying to help. So there is not at all a problem with we already heard Lewis speaking toughly on Bono when they were having problems. I think it's so easy for us journalists to write a story about, of course, Ferrari, there are big problems. It's so easy for us. You don't have an idea. Okay, let's do a pit stop Ferrari or a wrong strategy of Ferrari, and it's easy. I think it's more complicated than that. And if they have a big problem, it's bringing the car at the right speed on the Saturday on one lap.
Do you think they've given up on 2025? The reason I say that is, let's cast our minds back to the end of last year. They were 14 points behind McLaren at the end of the year. They're already 152 points behind McLaren after 6 races.
I would say that they made a mistake last year with the upgrade of Barcelona, where they have been lost during the whole summer. And I think their championship was not there. And the idea now is not to bring big updates till they find the solution of the tire eating or managing on one lap, because it's no point bringing something for a car which is quite good. Remember the Charles Leclerc in Jeddah. At one point, he was the fastest on the track, even more than the McLaren. So the car is not bad. They don't know yet how to manage it.
Well, I think you've also got the situation where you have Charles Leclerc, of course, who's well established within that team, but you have Lewis Hamilton, who not only is trying to get to grips with this Ferrari the way that Charles Leclerc is, but also getting to grips with the team Ferrari and still trying to assimilate with himself within that, within a new culture, with a new engineer. There are still all these little 1% that Lewis is working on before he even gets to the point where he can find the absolute maximum from that car. He's still looking at engine braking, and changing the way he drives a car, the way he's driven a car for years, and all the wins and the pole positions that he's had. So yeah, they have 2 unbelievably strong drivers. They have 2 number 1 drivers, but it just seems like you say they're on the back foot. I think Fred Vasseur very much though saying we're not panicking, we're staying calm, and very keen to point out, I think everybody is keen to point out, this is only race 6 and we still have therefore 18 races to go. There's a lot of racing left. If we look back at this point in 2024, and the gaps are big right now in terms of the team standings, especially to McLaren, but if we look back at this point last year, a lot had changed by the end of 2024.
But there wasn't the big regulation change looming.
We have, of course, where the development rate will not just slow, it will drop off, it will stop entirely with the view to 26.
Guys, it's been a brilliant chat. Thank you both very much for your time. Fred, we can't let you go until we've heard your driver of the day.
Oscar Piastri, easy. Because the way he managed Max and he dealt with the bad quality, which was 4th, for me was a sign that he can be the world champion of 25.
I'm going to say Alex Albon. I think it was a stunning result for Williams that came off the back of a real topsy-turvy Saturday with the P4 in the sprint and then it being taken away with the penalty and then qualifying well, and then he's maximised absolutely everything he can out of this weekend. Alex Albon has had a fantastic Grand Prix.
Hard to argue with either of you. Here's a different name, George Russell, because that Mercedes was not competitive this weekend. I know he was helped by the VSC, but he was on the back foot massively on Friday, and I was really impressed with the way that he knuckled down, stuck with it, and then he was actually really ill in the race today as well. He didn't come to the press conference afterwards for medical reasons. He was vomiting, and yet he still, you know, kept focus, finished the Grand Prix on the podium. So
And I think he's 6 points away from Verstappen.
Yeah, he's closed that gap.
So there we go. That was George Russell. Guys, thank you both very much for coming on the show. Always a pleasure. We're going to see you both in Imola.
See you in Imola.
Of course.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you so
Laura.
much.
Thank you.
And for more reaction and analysis from Miami, go to f1.com or the official F1 app. And in selected countries, you can watch the highlights on F1 TV. We will, of course, be back next Monday with our preview of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. But for now, thank you very much for listening. F1 Nation is produced by Formula One and Audio Boom Studios.